At my sister's wedding, my father announced to all the guests that I had voluntarily gifted my $2 million Aspen house to the bride and groom. When I stood up and said, "That's not true," his rage exploded, and he attacked me in front of everyone. I ended up in the emergency room. My father, Richard Vance, stood on the stage at the Boston Museum of Fine Arts, bathed in a spotlight. He was being honored at the Vance Family Foundation Gala. He smiled, talking about legacy and family future. Then he looked directly at me, Alara, at the VIP table, and so he boomed into the microphone to secure that future. My daughter Alara has agreed to transfer her intellectual property, Project Cassandra, to Vance Dynamics. The room was silent. He was talking about my $50 million algorithm. I stood up my chair, scraping the floor. No, Father, I did not agree to that. That IP is mine. Richard's smile didn't falter. His voice dropped cold and clear through the speakers. "Then you are no longer a Vance," he signaled. 2 security guards started moving toward my table. If you have ever felt cornered by your own family, leave a comment with, "I understand. Let me know where you're listening from. I'm Elara Vance, 32 years old. I'm the black sheep, the tech genius, in a Boston old money family that values polo trophies and last names more than lines of code. My father, Richard, is the CEO of Vance Dynamics. My mother, Cynthia, runs the family foundation, which really means she runs Boston Society. And my brother, Liam, 28, is the crown prince. He's the director of marketing. He's charming, handsome, and has never had an original thought in his life. This wasn't just about an algorithm. This was about a pattern. 2 years ago, to prove my value to the family, to show I was a team player, I gifted Vance Dynamics my core codebase for free. It's the engine the entire company runs on now. My father thanked me by holding a press conference 3 days later to announce my brother Liam, the marketing major, as the new director of AI initiatives. I built the engine. Liam got to drive the car and take the applause. This is the silent competence trap. It's the curse of the black sheep. You're the only one in the room who knows how to actually fix the problem, how to build the value. But you're invisible. Your competence is taken, not celebrated. It's treated like a utility, like water from a tap, while the golden child gets praised for simply holding the glass. I was the family's silent mechanic, their hidden asset, and I was done. So when those 2 security guards reached my table, I didn't cry, I didn't scream. Anger this time wasn't hot, it was clinical. I looked past them across the ballroom. I saw the faces of our biggest investors, their expressions frozen in shock and curiosity. I saw my mother Cynthia turn her head, pretending to inspect a floral arrangement. She was erasing me from the scene. I saw my brother Liam stare intently at his water glass, refusing to meet my eyes. He was letting it happen. The guards didn't grab me. They were polite. One murmured, "Ma'am, this way." They escorted me in my black suit across the polished marble floor. The only sound was the click of my heels, a long walk of public humiliation. They didn't just kick me out of the gala. They kicked me out of the family. The heavy oak doors of the museum shut behind me, and the cold Boston air hit my face. It was done. I didn't go home. Home was the Vance estate, and I had just been publicly disowned. Instead, I drove to my lab in Cambridge. It's a small rented space above a machine shop, filled with servers, whiteboards, and the smell of ozone. It's the only place I've ever felt truly in control. I sat in the dark, the blue and green lights of the server racks blinking, reflecting on the cold concrete floor. The adrenaline from the ballroom was fading, replaced by a hollow, ringing silence. I wasn't sad. I was calculating. The door buzzed. I flinched. It was Julian Mercer. He's the company's general counsel, but he was my mentor long before that. He looked furious. His face was tight, his 38-year-old features sharp under the fluorescent hallway light. "You're okay," he said. It wasn't a question. "I'm intact," I replied, my voice sounding hollow. He walked past me and stared at the server rack humming in the corner. "That's it, isn't it? Project Cassandra, the $50 million ghost." I just nodded. "Alara," he said, turning to face me, "this just stopped being a family drama. Your father, as CEO of Vance Dynamics, publicly tried to coerce a high-value asset transfer in front of investors. That's a massive corporate governance violation. That's PIME. He searched for the word. That's a war." I rubbed my temples. The shock was finally settling in, and it brought a strange, cold clarity. He wasn't asking Julian. He wasn't even lying. He genuinely believes he owns me. This is the inherited entitlement syndrome. It's a mindset baked into old money and dynastic families. They don't see their children as individuals. They see them as assets. My success wasn't my success. It was a product of the Vance name, the Vance resources. In my father's mind, my brain was just another wing of the family estate. He believed he had the right to harvest what I produced, just like he had the right to the dividends from his grandfather's stock. I looked at Julian. He doesn't think he's stealing. He thinks he's collecting. "I don't care what he thinks," Julian said, his voice hard. "I care about what the bylaws say. He can't do this. He just humiliated the single most valuable developer the company has, and he did it in public." He paced the small lab energized by the fight. "They're going to call you, Cynthia and Liam. They'll try to smooth it over. Don't answer. Don't text. Forward everything to me. This is a legal matter now." He paused, looking at me closely. "You have to be ready, Alara. They just pushed you out of the family. Are you ready to push back?" I thought about the gala, my mother's averted eyes, my brother's silence, my father's cold, final declaration. I turned to my main console and logged in. The code for Cassandra filled the screen. "They didn't just push me," I said, my fingers starting to move across the keyboard. "They just gave me the high ground." My phone, dark on the workbench, lit up. It was my mother, Cynthia. The text read, "Ilara, your father is deeply ashamed of your behavior. You have embarrassed him and this family. You need to apologize and sign the transfer documents immediately." I stared at the words. Ashamed of my behavior. No remorse. No concern. Just a command. This wasn't an olive branch. It was an order for unconditional surrender. A second text notification popped up. My brother, Liam. "Just do it, Alara. It's for the family. Don't ruin this for everyone. Dad is planning to name me head of the new AI division." My fingers went cold. Don't ruin this for everyone. Which meant, don't ruin this for me. He wasn't just a silent bystander. He was the beneficiary. He was waiting to be handed the keys to the kingdom I had built. I didn't reply. I forwarded both messages to Julian with a single word: coercion. He replied almost instantly. "Got them. Don't engage. Sleep. Your father has no idea what he's done." I didn't sleep. I worked. I ran diagnostics on Cassandra, tightening the security protocols, checking the firewalls. I worked until the sun started to bleach the black sky over Cambridge. My phone rang at 7 a.m. It was Julian. "Good morning," he said. His voice was all business. "I need you to hear something. Before I left the gala last night, I intercepted Richard in the private lounge. He thought I was coming to manage you on his behalf. and I said, cradling the phone. And I recorded it. A file appeared in my inbox. I clicked it. At first, all I heard was the clink of a glass and the distant sound of the gala music. Then my father's voice, but not the smooth, public-facing CEO voice. This was the voice I heard behind closed doors. It was raw, cold, and laced with absolute authority. "She's a child throwing a tantrum," Richard's voice said. Julian's voice was calm. "Richard, she's 32, and it's her legal intellectual property. The board won't like this." Then came the laugh. A short, sharp, humorless sound. "The board, I am the board. She's my daughter. She will do as she is told. You go to her lab, you tell her what I'm offering. You tell her she signs that code over by morning, or I will personally ensure she is blacklisted from every tech firm from here to Silicon Valley. I will destroy her reputation. I will call her mentors, her contacts, her university. I will paint her as unstable, vindictive, and impossible to work with. She thinks she built something. I will burn it to the ground. Tell her that." The recording clicked off. I sat there, the phone pressed to my ear, listening to the dial tone. He hadn't just threatened to disown me. He had threatened to erase me, to make sure that even if I left the family, I would have nothing. This wasn't just greed. This wasn't just entitlement. This was a declaration of total war. I let the silence after the recording hang in the air for a long moment. Julian was looking at me, his face grim. "He'll do it, Alara. He's not bluffing." "I know," I said. I turned from the console and looked at him. He doesn't get it. Get what? That this is illegal. He doesn't care. "No," I said, a strange calm settling over me. "He doesn't understand what he's trying to steal." I opened my laptop and brought up the core architecture of Project Cassandra. I navigated deep into the kernel, past the learning modules, past the predictive engines, to a small, elegant block of code I had written 3 years ago. "My father thinks he's trying to steal a painting," I said, pointing to the screen. "He thinks he can just take it, hang it on his wall, and call it his. He's wrong. He's trying to steal a live bomb." Julian leaned closer. "What is that?" "A firewall." "It's a smart contract," I said. "A digital failsafe. You see this authentication protocol?" I showed him the string. Project Cassandra isn't just a piece of software. It's a living system, and it requires maintenance. Specifically, it requires a biometric authentication key from me or from a designated secondary, which is you, by the way. It requires that key once every 90 days. "A dead man's switch," Julian breathed, understanding. "More like a living woman's switch," I corrected. "If that 90-day window passes without my key or yours, the smart contract executes. It doesn't just lock the code. It doesn't just shut it down. It triggers a cascading encryption sequence that permanently renders every line of data, every algorithm, every single learned response into complete, irreversible gibberish." I looked at him. "It self-destructs permanently. You can't hack it, you can't bypass it, and you can't restore it from a backup because the corruption is designed to be retroactive. My father can have the code. He can put it on his servers. He can tell my brother Liam to manage it. But on the 90th day, that $50 million asset will turn into a useless brick of digital scrap." Julian was silent, absorbing the sheer cold calculation of it. "He wants to destroy me," I said, closing the laptop. "He thinks he's the only one with a scorched earth policy. He's about to find out. I learned from the best." Julian called the emergency board meeting for 10 a.m. the next day. It was a video call, a sea of small, serious faces in squares on my screen. I was on the call, but my camera and microphone were off. I was an observer. My father Richard and my mother Cynthia appeared in the same square framed by the art in their study. They looked confident, annoyed, like this was a bureaucratic hassle. Richard spoke first. Julian, members of the board, I'm not sure what this emergency is about. I can only assume it's a ridiculous overreaction to a small family disagreement that was handled perhaps a bit publicly. My mother nodded beside him, her expression one of practiced concern. What Richard means is, we are handling a private matter with our daughter. It has no bearing on Vance Dynamics. Julian's face was impassive. Thank you, Cynthia. Richard, unfortunately, it is a board matter. When the CEO publicly attempts to coerce a $50 million asset transfer from a key developer, it becomes a severe governance issue. Richard scoffed, a genuine, arrogant laugh. Coerce? That's absurd. Elara is emotional. She's sensitive. She misunderstood. Is that so? Julian asked, his voice flat. Then perhaps you can clarify what the board is about to hear. He didn't wait for an answer. He clicked Share Audio. The recording from his phone, the one he took in the private lounge, filled the digital silence. We all listened. We heard my father's cold, dismissive tone. We heard him threaten to destroy me. We heard him vow to blacklist me from the entire tech industry. We heard him say, I will burn it to the ground. The recording ended. Dead silence. The faces on the Zoom call were frozen. One board member, an older woman named Sarah, slowly took off her glasses. Another, a venture capitalist from New York, just stared, his mouth slightly open. Richard's face had gone from confident to red to a pale, chalky white. My mother looked like she had seen a ghost. That was my cue. I turned on my camera. My face appeared in a new square on their screens. I was in my lab. The server racks were humming behind me. Hello, Father. Mother. Richard looked like he'd been struck. Elara, you have no right. You're wrong, Richard. Julian cut in, his voice like steel. She has every right. She is the owner of the IP you're trying to steal. Elara, you have the floor. I looked directly into the camera. I didn't look at my father. I looked at the board. He's right about one thing, I said, my voice calm and clinical. It is my code. But he's wrong about who's in control. I am Project Cassandra, and my father has just proven on tape that he is willing to commit criminal acts of coercion and career-ending sabotage to get it. I let that sink in. So here's the reality. You can all vote to keep my father as CEO. He can have the code. He can put my brother Liam in charge of it. But Project Cassandra, the $50 million asset your entire future growth strategy depends on, is protected by a smart contract, a failsafe. And in exactly 89 days without my biometric key, it will execute a cascading encryption and turn itself into a useless $50 million brick. I saw Sarah, the board member, put her glasses back on. She was smiling. Or, I continued, you can do this. You can vote today for gross misconduct and breach of fiduciary duty. You can remove Richard Vance as CEO. You will appoint Julian Mercer as interim CEO, effective immediately. And you will finance a new independent spin-off company, which I will own, that will license Project Cassandra back to Vance Dynamics at a fair market rate. I leaned in. So that's the choice, my father's legacy or your company's future. You have 5 minutes to decide before I end this call, and start the 89-day countdown. The clock is ticking. I didn't need 5 minutes. The board didn't need 5 minutes. The vote was instantaneous, 8-0. Richard Vance was removed as CEO effective immediately. The motion to fund my new spin-off, Cassandra AI, and appoint Julian as interim CEO passed seconds later. My father's video feed went black. Then my mother's. It was over. I sat back, the adrenaline finally draining, leaving me feeling light. My phone, which had been silent, buzzed. It was an email from the board with the official signed resolutions. Funding secured. Company secured. Then it buzzed again. A call. My mother. I stared at the screen, then clicked accept and put it on speaker. Alara. Her voice wasn't the cold society matron voice. It was shaking. It was a raw, desperate sound I had never heard. Alara, what have you done? What did you do? I told the truth, Mother, I said, my voice quiet. You've ruined him. You've ruined your father, she shrieked. You've ruined the family. What about Liam? What about his future? I looked at the screen at the lines of code that represented my future. The one I had built while they ignored me, while they channeled all their hopes into the empty suit crown prince. I just saved Liam's future mother. I said the words cold and precise. Vance Dynamics still exists, and it only exists because of me. But we are finished. I pressed end call, and then I blocked her number. 6 months later. I'm standing in my new office, not a cramped lab, but a glass-walled space overlooking the Boston Harbor. The sign on the door reads Cassandra AI, Ilara Vance, CEO. My father was retired by the board 2 days after the meeting. He's in Florida now, I think. My mother is with him, her name no longer on the letterhead of any Boston charity. My brother Liam is still Director of Marketing at Vance Dynamics. He reports to Julian, who is now the permanent CEO. I'm no longer the black sheep. I'm no longer the hidden asset. I'm the owner. I am the strategic partner they cannot afford to lose. I am not a Vance asset. I am Ilara Vance. They always told me that blood is forever, that you owe your family everything. That was the lie they used to keep me in the box they built for me. But they were wrong. Sometimes severing blood is the only way to find yourself. Sometimes the greatest act of loyalty isn't to the people who raised you, but to the person you've become. The real liberation wasn't just getting my company. It was the moment I realized I didn't need their approval. I never did. True legacy isn't the name they give you at birth. It's the one you build for yourself, line by line, decision by decision, until the very thing they tried to take from you becomes the fortress they can never touch. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever had to choose between your family and your own worth, share this video. Your story matters, and you are not alone.